But it is a grind to work with. Like it's a lot easier to have a regular client where you know who their team is, how they work, you know the product lines, you know what's expected. You just take like a lot of the legwork that you would have with a new client over and over again out of the equation. With the new clients, it's exciting and you get to work on new properties and new toys. And sometimes those properties are like stuff that I would love to work on anyways. Um, but you always have to go through, you have to go through the contract process with every new client. There's always stuff that you have to do with the new client. So I prefer the longer term contracts, and I appreciate all the new contracts that come with me, even though they're not long term, because it just, as an independent little studio business owner, um, you definitely want to work. You definitely want to work. So I take it all, unless it's not a good fit, like I said. But yeah, I mean, toy photography as a career has been everything I ever dreamed about. I went to art school. I have a degree in illustration. I got off my path. I wanted to do illustration type jobs. As soon as I got out of college, I got off that path. I started down this path of product design and product development, which led me to work at Disney for 6 years. It led me to working in Taiwan. It led me to working in Thailand. I met my wife in Taiwan. So I appreciate everything that career gave me. But I feel like right now is the creative life that I always dreamed about when I was like in college. I feel like, because then I was going, I want to illustrate book covers. I want to illustrate magazine covers. And I've done those things with toy photography. So I feel like this is what I was meant to do. And in fact, if I was still an illustrator, so much of it would probably be digital now. So there's not this great, like vast canyon of difference between the two. And again, it really comes down to storytelling, regardless of the medium. It really comes down to storytelling. So yeah, it's a great career for that. It's challenging. Like if anybody has goals of becoming a toy photographer for their full-time career, I would say just do what I said earlier. Just do it as a side hustle first and see what happens. Yeah, it's
How do you sort of spark up your creativity? I mean, do you ever suffer from something like writer's block or creative block or something like that, or do you have any methods to just get the creative juices flowing?
yeah. I mean, they're probably not much different than maybe yours or some other like visual arts people looking for. I go to museums, I go to galleries, I watch a ton of movies, I watch television shows. Um, yeah, it's like just get out and do stuff. I love hiking. I go out into the forest and I hike. I feel like all of this stuff can help um, put your head into a different mindset, which is what you need if you ever get into those situations where creativity is not flowing like it normally should or you wish it could. It's really just changing your environment and your experiences, I think. Um, Having said that, with the client work, I really have no problem generating ideas. With my personal work, that's where it can be more challenging. I remember when I first started, I would go to that park, Vasquez Rocks, and I would come home with like a memory card full of different images, and I'd have enough images to go for a daily post on Instagram for a week, if not more. It gets a lot harder, and I've talked to other toy photographers about this too. It does get harder, but I don't know if that's because the ideas were so bad back then that and you really didn't care because you were just going out for the joy of shooting toys, which is beautiful in its own right. But I don't know if the ideas, I know I had a lot of crappy ideas back then, but I also know I had some good ones that hold up today. So, um, but yeah, it is definitely harder for me to generate ideas for my personal work right now than it used to be. But when it comes to the client work, I feel like the mission is clear, and it's a lot easier for me to create ideas and stories. Partly because a lot of it is driven from the characters the backstories of the characters that I'm shooting. So there's already some kind of roadmap set for those, and it's like client situations where I won't deviate greatly into some weird, irreverent take on who these characters are, like I would with Star Wars. Like I'm not shooting Star Wars stormtroopers for Hasbro or for Lucasfilm, so I will do wacky things with them. Um, I'm to the point now though where I can start like showing a lot of that wackiness in my client images, which is like the best of both worlds. Then when that happens, when the client is agreeable to that, it's like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. That's the best. That is the best. And I have that with Boss Fight Studio and a few of my other clients once in a while. Yeah.
Because that can be a really fun thing to use that juxtaposition. You take a well-known character, but you put them in a completely different context. That's what I always find interesting. Like
Exactly.
we went last year. I went to Norway to do a to teach a portrait lighting photography workshop up in the Lofoten Islands with a friend of mine, Dave Williams. And
Nice.
we had Viking models with us for the whole time. So they were like, these two
Wow.
actors, they're completely kitted out in the full that Netflix Viking
Wow.
armor, and the whole shebang is incredibly detailed. It was literally like
Right.
Lord of the Rings type of detail on their armors.
Super cool. Super cool.
And of course, the idea was, we take them, we put them in this incredible landscape up in Arctic Norway. And I mean, you can just put them down, you tell them to sit there on this rock, it looks awesome. It just looks just like it was,
Take a photo.
1,000 years
Exactly.
ago, fantastic. But I always thought like, hey, it would be much more interesting to take those actors and put them in a completely juxtaposed environment. Have them drive a car or like do a cool photo of them in like a sort of a modern environment where you get this sort of juxtaposition and create something that's a little bit wacky and totally a little bit different.
Right.
And I always, as always, I always have to kind of create some kind of Star Wars related thing. So we did a few of those, but that's always the fun part. And I'm guessing when you're working on your own personal portfolio, you have a lot more freedom to actually realize those kind of wacky ideas.
Yeah, for sure. And you've actually hit on like one of the primary ways I generate story ideas is to how can I show like really well-known characters who we all have like ideas and expectations on who and how they react, who they are and how they react. How can I show them differently? And I think the first time I really hit on that was with okay, so the genesis of the idea was like Darth Vader. We all know him to be a very dark, evil character who will force choke you for no reason at all. We know that. But my question was, after a hard day's work of force choking people, does he go back to his cabin on the Death Star? What does he do? Is he still that really dark individual? He just can't wait to, who is he plotting the next people that he's gonna, force choke? Or does he kick off his boots, take off his helmet, let down his hair, even though it was all burned off in lava when he was younger? And does he have a beard? What does he do? So that's where I feel like there's a lot of fertile ground for storytelling. And that's like the first image I created after like coming up with that was Darth Vader pushing a stormtrooper on a swing. And it ends up being one of my like more iconic, memorable images.
Awesome.
To this day, I don't even know what year I did that in, and if you look at it now, you will see that, it's Darth Vader pushing a stormtrooper on a swing, and the posing's fine. Actually, Darth Vader, like I look at it now and I feel like the posing could be more dynamic. I could have added more to the surrounding set. Really, it's just, you see a stick over the top frame with the swing hanging down and Darth Vader, and there's nothing else. It's just on dirt. But it really just, and I think to myself, I could redo this one. But then it's clear that it doesn't need to be redone really, because the impact that I wanted of Darth Vader not being the dark individual and just having fun is really the story. So I don't need to redo it, even though it was done so long ago and it's not how I would do it today. It still tells the story and gets the point across. But yeah, trying to show characters in unexpected ways, because like all the Star Wars characters or any iconic character we're familiar with, we've been force fed who these characters are. So we know who they are. We know Darth Vader. We know Harris, we know Indiana Jones. We know what these guys are about. So how can we show them in different ways? So that's a great way to tell a story.
Have you ever seen the show? I can't remember whether it was a TV show or an online thing, but it's basically Darth Vader working as a shop attendant in like some supermarket, like Costco or something. Did you ever see that? He was like,
I don't know if I've seen that, but that sounds hilarious.
I know it's like it's sort of a comedy thing.
Yeah.
It's strange, bizarre, but hysterically funny because it's literally Darth Vader with with the breathing and the whole shebang. But he's just stacking the shelves at Costco. I think and then he gets told off by his supervisor. So just like, I mean, if they replaced that character with just an ordinary guy, it would have just been, yeah, well, that's what happens at Costco, I guess. If you work there.